Right, let's begin. So, hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon. So, wherever you're joining us from today. So, before we begin, I just want to let everyone know that this session it's being recorded. That the recording will be shared amongst the participants who've joined us today. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us directly and we'll be happy to respond. Just a note of care. Obviously, we are talking about female genital mutilation. We are talking about the justice of girls. We are talking about violence against girls and women. So I want to caution everybody to take care of themselves while we're in this session. Anything that's been said in this session can be extremely triggering. If you need to step away, please do. And I will ask everybody to please respect this space. We are here to have a conversation about a subject that's quite difficult. But one thing we are very clear is, I think, so we just want to be very clear on that. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Leila Hussein. I'm the Global Advocacy Director for the Girl Generation. I'm your moderator for the day. I think I just want to start with the sentiment around language. I think at the Girl Generation, we want to make it very clear that we recognize female genital mutilation as a form of child abuse, as a form of violence, as a form of oppression against women and girls, as a form of sexual assault. So we're declaring that as the Girl Generation. So just wanted to start with that. So today we are going to be joined by four amazing women whose work represents different spaces, but deeply connected as parts of the movement to ending FGM. Why we really wanted this particular webinar, it really stems from unfortunately the devastating outcome from what's happened in Gambia. As many of you might remember, a baby died while being subjected to FGM last year. So we were hoping to get some sort of justice, and that didn't happen. So we didn't want to just share tweets and WhatsApp messages. We really wanted to create a conversation where we can continue and really see how we can move forward together as a community working in this space. So I want to welcome my four speakers. Khadijatu Balyama, apologies if I'm saying the names wrong. She's an expert survivor from Sierra Leone. She was one of the plaintiffs of the case that was actually where a survivor actually took the Sierra Leone government to court. Her courage and leadership really continue to shape regional conversations on justice and accountability. So she'll be sharing what that experience was like. Next person, it's Fatu Badle. Fatu Badle is another human rights she's a human rights lawyer, a survivor expert herself in this space. I'm using the word survivor expert because I guess someone also who identifies as survivor experts. We are not just survivors who tell our story, we are actually experts in this space. So Fatu's work really has been central into organizing community at a grassroots level, at a public level, at an advocacy level. And Fatu will be here to really give us an update on the current status in Gambia. And then we also have another human rights lawyer, Eleanor Thompson. She was one of the lawyers that represented Khadijatu at her case. She will help us understand why what legal victories actually mean, what non-compliance actually looks like, and what it takes to move from judgment to justice. And finally, Mariama Kamara, who founded the organization Her Voice, Sierra Leone. She's a youth activist, again, another expert survivor in this space, will bring critical perspective on young people organizing themselves, young feminists who are part of the building this movement. And yeah, so what the next generation will look like. Hopefully, Mariam will give us some sort of hope by the end of this conversation. So I want to begin with, the beginning of this segment is what does justice actually mean? So Kadiata, I really want to come to you first. My first question to you would be, when you think about justice beyond a court case that you really have been through and beyond the public attention, what does justice mean to an FGM survivor? So what did that mean to you as a survivor to get that justice? Kadiata, Kadiata, can you hear me? Kadiata, can you hear me? Maybe unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. You're still muted.
Can
Uh,
you hear me?
yes, we can hear you. Did you hear my question, or shall I
Yes, come
repeat?
again. I didn't get
So let me repeat my question. So this segment, we're calling it, what does justice mean to you, right?
you
So
properly, please.
yeah, so when you think about justice beyond the court, beyond the public attention, what does justice mean to you as a survivor? So getting that justice, what did it mean to you as a survivor?
Okay, thank you very much, and good day, everyone. To me, when I talk about justice, it's not just like a written words on a paper or
Mm,
everybody like coming to make headlines, news about what has happened, or people want to hear the story. Some people want to run with it. It's not just that what is meant to me as justice. When I talk about justice, I look beyond the the paperwork. I look beyond the loud noise out there in the congregation, in the nations, across the world. I look at justice like a teamwork. I look
yeah.
at justice as something that every one of us is entitled to. So if one of us are violated as a result of injustice, it's a collective work to see that that individual justice is served. But if we only come for the news, we only come to do the paperwork and for the public to be seen, and there is no support, there is no system that is backing us, or there is no one that is like pushing for me to see that, oh, the justice has been served as a paperwork, but it needs to be implemented. There is no implementation. As for me, I see that is a weak justice. But if justice has been served and we see that a precedent has been taken, and people who are supposed to face the law, and we set a great example,
Mhm.
then I can say I have justice. But when having justice in the courtroom, out of the courtroom, you are faced with threats.
Yeah.
You left with no choice. People that you believe and lean on that you can trust. Eventually, the trust began to collapse bit by bit. You left with no choice to leave, to flee from your country where you think you deserve a justice, where you think people will stand by you, where you think this individual can come like a support system to help you find the justice, and in front of your face, everything shattered and everything shattered. You have to like bend down and begin to pick it one by one, just like a grain of wine. It's difficult to define that as justice. In the long run, it's justice. But after like the justice,
Oh
when
no.
we are talking about justice, after there is a whole lot of work, because you will lose friends, you will lose family members, you will lose close people. There are some people, as the moment you decide to stand for that justice, that this justice, I deserve it, I will own it. And it's
Yeah.
not only me, there are millions and thousands out there that still need the same justice, that we need to set precedent. You become a threat altogether. So, irrespective of the threat and whatever, in my case, is a big example to everyone out there. Either you are poor, you are small or not, the system, the court system can work for you. You just need to try the justice system. So for me, it's an example for me that
Yeah.
the justice is real and justice must be served irrespective of your level. Thank you so much.
I wanted to follow up with another question. Can you maybe speak to because justice has happened, but maybe the lead up to that, had that impacted you? What was that like to be the person really representing this one key case where you got this justice? What was that like for you, emotionally, psychologically, socially? I mean, you spoke a little bit about feeling some backlash, but maybe if you can expand on that a little bit so the audience understands what it's like to be a survivor who puts herself out there and how risky that actually is. Khadijatu, can you hear me? I think Khadijatu, she's really struggling.
Can you come again? I didn't hear you properly.
So I'm asking, maybe if you can speak to the challenges.
Can you bring the internet for me? I'm having to take it outside. I'm speaking on internet. Bring the internet here. Let me use it. She take it outside and close the door.
So yeah, I was just asking the impact.
Yeah, hello, Doc. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm asking the impact you experienced as a survivor in getting to this point of this case. What was that like for you, physically, emotionally? I want the audience to understand that this was not an easy thing for you to do.
I'm struggling to hear you, Dr. Lila.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I will come back to you. Mute yourself. I will come back to you. I'll come back to you. Don't worry. I'll just go to the next panelist, if that's okay. So just mute. Mark, if you can mute Khadijatu's that page. Thank you. Right. I want to come to Fatu. Fatu, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, as you can hear what Khadijatu just already shared, I can see you nodding your head as she was speaking. I mean, from your work in the Gambia and the grassroots communities, how do survivors define define justice in ways that might be different from how institutions or legal system define it? Like, what would that look like in Gambia?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Leila, for everyone for organizing this very timely conversation. And I just wanted to send a solidarity message to Khadija before I move on, for her bravery and for speaking up and for really raising the bar for us. And I know that was brave, and I also know how difficult it is as a survivor to speak on these issues. So thank you for what you have done, Khadija. So for us, I think for many survivors and also communities, justice is much more broader than the courtroom decisions or sometimes even the law on paper. Indeed, we know that strong laws and their effective implementations are essential. They're very vital as they provide protection, accountability, but also importantly, they send a clear message that FGM is a violation of human rights, the violations of women's rights, is a form of gender-based violence that affect women and girls. But to many survivors, defining justice may be difficult, but also sometimes it goes beyond the legal system. I have spoken to many survivors, and when I do, they speak about dignity, they speak about healing, but also the importance of recognition as well as safety and the ability to live free from harm and discrimination. And for many survivors, they want acknowledgement, because we know that in a lot of our communities, when FGM happens, it is not acknowledged as harm. So for some of these survivors, justice must also start by recognizing FGM as something that has caused harm and naming it. And again, going back to you, Layla, the power of language, naming it and saying exactly what it is, because I believe the way that FGM has been maintained and reinforced from one generation to another is through the trivialization on how much it affects women and girls. So acknowledgement and naming, it's really important for survivors. But beyond that, also justice means access to health, access to psychosocial support. We know also that a lot of survivors struggle with psychosocial impact, the emotional impact, but also in the survivor space, even speaking up, we know how speaking up about FGM affects us, affects our relationship with our families. So it is really important that when we talk about justice, we also talk about healing. We talk about because it's really important for us, but also through that tackling stigma, tackling backlash to communities. But importantly, I believe that justice is also about agency. You know, survivors want to be involved in shaping the solutions. We, the survivors, people from the community, we know what the solutions are in our communities. We know how to influence decisions. We also know how to engage our people. So it is important that when we are in this movement, when we are leading, and I've now borrowed this language of survivor experts, where we are not just considered as survivors, we are looked at as experts, because nobody can tell us about FGM better than us. We are survivors, but also we come from these practicing communities. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Fatu, you really are picking up. I just want to come back to another point around language, actually, that you picked up, and maybe we can expand on it a little bit, because, I think when the Girl Generation, when we developed this position paper, so those in the audience, if you go on the Girl Generation page, you find the Power of Language document. What was really interesting when we were looking at developing this paper, there was a lot of, I guess, resistance in terms of, oh no, this is going to offend people, even though this was coming from survivors. So maybe I wondered if you can expand on that a little bit, because maybe we can dismantle this idea that somehow we're going to freak out by calling this violence, but we clearly know it's violence. Yeah.
Thank you. In fact, I have to admit, I was also one of the people that really tiptoed a bit around language. And of course, that is because of my work around communities. And I was always a bit reluctant or being too careful on what language I use when it comes to FGM. And recently, I had an experience. I was speaking to an older woman at the community level. And then she said to me, in my language, the Fulani language in Gambia, we refer to FGM as sukere, which actually directly translate to blocking
Wow.
something.
Which
I had, of course, I've always had I know we use sukere and that's what FGM means, but I never thought about the power of what that means and how to use that language as an entry point to speak on the severity of FGM. Because now I ask women, where in our communities, we are told that we don't mutilate, we don't do all this violence, we just cut. But now you from my community are telling me you are blocking. What are you blocking? Can we talk about that? Can we unpack that? For us, that has given us an entry point to accept, first of all, that what we are doing is harmful, even through the language. But I was always raised to believe that language was beautified. Sukare, blocking, was given to me until that woman started speaking to me, and I used this language, the power of language again. So I am seeing directly how that is impacting our work on the ground, but it's also making me, as someone who work at the community, reflect on language, the language that we have been using, and how can we use that to really correct or demystify FGM in general.
Thank you, Fatu. No, the language aspect, it's such a journey. Even for me, it took me a couple of years to get there, but I really needed a safe environment. I think that's what it comes back to. How do we create a safe space to have and what you just described, you created a safe space to have that conversation. Thank you so much, Fatu. I think also just from what you've shared, it reminds us, if we say what's lost in movements, if we only focus on law is very important, but what you're saying is we need to have the center survivors on healing and justice, protection, dignity, power, health. So it's a bigger picture than just getting justice. It's more to it than that. Thank you so much, Fatu. So our next segment, we're calling it, when the law isn't enough, right? So Eleanor, I want to come to you. So Eleanor, from ECOWAS case, so maybe it would be good to also explain to people what ECOWAS actually does. So can you help us maybe understand how this judgment came to how we got to this judgment, and what does legal victory really mean in practice, right? So what does non-compliance mean for survivors and for this wider movement? Over to you, Eleanor.
Thank you, Leila. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the experts who are here to share not only their experiences and their stories, but also really to lead us and guide us in how, as individuals and as movements, we can support their movements for justice. And I want to start out as a lawyer by saying that, agreeing that the law is not enough. The law is helpful. It is absolutely necessary, but it is not the only thing that needs to be in place. And with that said, one of the things we tried to do with the ECOWAS court case is to really shape the law, move the law, and shape the law in Sierra Leone when it comes to female genital mutilation. But we did that, or we tried to do that, led by a courageous survivor, Khadijatu Aliyu Balema, Khadijatu, sorry, Balema Aliyu, apologies, and two public interest applicants, the Forum Against Harmful Practices and We Are Purposeful, who all three brought this case not only to seek justice for the harm that was caused to Khadija when, even as an adult, FGM was forcefully carried out on her, but also the public interest applicants brought this case to the ECOWAS court against the government of Sierra Leone on behalf of girls and women across the country, to essentially say, this is what has been happening. This is a widespread practice that disproportionately affects girls, that has not only caused direct harm, physical harm, mental harm, emotional harm, developmental harm. And here are the statistics, here's the proof of that, but also that has the potential to continue to cause harm, or that is continuing to cause harm. And that not only is important because of the life, the health, the development of every girl and woman in this country is important, but also because women are integral to our society and to our country. And so you are essentially causing harm or protecting those who cause harm to the greatest part of the population and our future. So that's really what broadly, was behind the case. And the ECOWAS court is a regional body. It can hear cases of violations of human rights by any citizen of any ECOWAS, that's the West African states, of any ECOWAS member state. And so this was an opportunity to go beyond just trying to get the law in Sierra Leone to be changed, to go beyond getting justice for Khadijatu, but also to set a precedent for the region and beyond, because all human rights courts, their decisions are respected by human rights courts in other regions. Even if they're not necessarily binding, but they are respected, they are referred to. And so this was an opportunity to really set a precedent on what violence against women means and um, and what message or what standard we're setting, what moral standard, not just legal standard, but moral standard is being set on the tolerance of female genital mutilation. So really quickly, I'll just say what the court decided and where we are now. And the ECOWAS court, in a decision about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, decided that Sierra Leone had violated a number of the African continental human rights treaties and international treaties that it's a party to, and also violated Khadija's specific, human rights by one, not having a law that explicitly bans FGM, bans and criminalizes FGM, but also because the acts carried out on her also is a violation of her right to dignity and to be free from cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, and her right to the security of her person. But we have specific continental treaties that I think is important to highlight. That being the Maputo Protocol, which is our continental treaty with respect to the rights of women, and then the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. And each of those, and all of the states, including Sierra Leone, that are party to those treaties, they sign up, they make explicit commitments to prohibit and criminalize or condemn harmful practices. And FGM is specifically named as one of those. And then they also require Sierra Leone and other states to eradicate customs and practices that violate rights that are vital to girls' health, development, and equality. So like the right to health, the right to life, and to be free from discrimination. And so the court found violations of all of these. The court found that Sierra Leone had violated all of these and ordered Sierra Leone to not only take immediate legislative steps to prohibit and sanction FGM in Sierra Leone, but also to undertake educational programs and socioeconomic policies or measures to ensure that FGM is eradicated in Sierra Leone. And of course, the court specifically in addressing the harm caused to Khadija ordered that she be paid $30,000 in compensation, and that there be a prompt investigation and prosecution of those who perpetrated the harm against her. So in practice, this legal victory, it means that Sierra Leone is bound to do all of what, the court has ordered. And I mean, specifically in Khadija's case, to pay that compensation and bring the perpetrators to book, but more broadly, to ensure that to change the law, essentially. And that law serving as again, our standard in Sierra Leone, but also a deterrent, and undertaking public education. And I think that some of these orders sometimes get lost, especially the education and socioeconomic policies, because these harms they happen in a context. They happen in they don't happen in a vacuum. And things like, ensuring girls and women know their rights, but also that you have socioeconomic policies that deal with SOEs. In Sierra Leone, it's the SOEs who carry out the cutting, who talk about this being their source of livelihood. So there's a socioeconomic issue there as well. And so those are, I think, important practical measures that stem from this judgment, this decision. Yeah. And
I think,
in
yeah,
terms of just to add in terms of non-compliance, because that's what that's the
yeah,
status currently. The state has yet to implement the decision of the court, even though it's bound to, and even though our president, our Sierra Leone president, is currently the chair of ECOWAS. But the state's non-compliance, it means that we currently have no law explicitly banning FGM, which means that women and girls in Sierra Leone are not protected and not safe from violence. It means, and especially girls, because this overwhelmingly is carried out on girls. And so obviously that affects their development and their equal opportunities in society. But it also, women are at risk. Women like Khadija too was an adult when this was done to her. And even recently there's been a case, an alleged case of FGM forcefully carried out on a woman as a means of punishment. And this is also something that we have seen commonly come up. So there's no protection for both girls and women. And survivors, particularly when there's not compliance with the judgment, it means that they may not feel a sense of justice, whatever justice means to them, which is different for every survivor.
I wanted to come back to one more point, and I want to come back to Khadija just following from what you just said, but I want to come back to, so over the last few years, so when I'm going through this journey around language, I think what came up over and over again, I was training a group of policemen, lawmakers in the UK a couple of years ago. And one of them came up to me at the end of the training, a whole day training around FGM, and he said to me, I don't understand why this is not being reported as a serious sexual assault against a child. Because he kept saying touching a child's genitalia is a form of sexual violence, right? It's sexual assault. Legally, that's why. And then now you take a weapon to it. So maybe as a lawyer, and I know Fatu also, maybe when I come back to you, you can respond to this. Why are we not making that link? Because if that is really, and just to follow up, recently I was at a journalism festival, and when journalists said to me, FGM is the only sexual assault where you have witnesses in the room, because as you both know, sexual assault cases are the hardest to prove, is always the victim against the perpetrator. However, with FGM, you actually have few witnesses who have witnessed as this is taken. So maybe just a few minutes. You don't need to expand it, but just maybe why is there a challenge around framing it as that? Because Sierra Leone has really named girls are not being protected. Yeah.
So this is precisely what we've actually tried to do, Leila. And what we did at the ECOWAS court was to take harm from being just an abstract word that can easily be dismissed or ignored, to one where the survivor, when you hear about it from the lips and the words of the survivor, it becomes real. But also, what we've tried to do is, and through, for instance, domestic litigation, using existing criminal laws and advocating for the use of existing criminal laws, including ones on sexual offenses, to say that this is it's a violation of one's person. It can be attempted murder or murder if the person, unfortunately dies.
Not agree more.
And also it can be a sexual offense. So that is actually currently possible now. There are ongoing prosecutions which use the domestic criminal law to try to bring to book perpetrators of FGM. But one of the areas that this could certainly expound into is using our very strong sexual offenses laws in Sierra Leone to also prosecute domestically.
Oh, Eleanor, I really cannot thank you for your amazing work. I think as many survivors on this call, I can safely say, just hearing a lawyer based in the African continent getting that kind of judgment passed through, I cannot tell how much it actually means, because I think there's been such I guess, barricades even around just calling it that. So I hope the world really sees Sierra Leone as a place now where girls, as an example, what the framework of getting justice actually looks like. So thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to check with Khadijatu. Can you hear me now? I wanted to come back to you again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Doctor.
Perfect. So I really wanted to
Can you hear?
follow up. Yeah, I can hear you. I wanted to follow up from what Eleanor said. So I want to come back to, yes, you got this judgment was passed, and I
Yeah.
really love the way it was framed. But then what does the aftermath look like? How is that impacting you now? What does that look like? Because did you get your $30,000 compensation? So what was the aftermath look like? Getting a judgment pass is one thing, but what does the action look like afterwards?
Well, thank you so much. The outcome of the judgment is, I would say it is good because it benefits not only Sierra Leone, but the region as well. People are using the judgment to set example in their local communities, in their regions, and people are using the same judgment to make sure policymakers take responsibility of things that need to be done in respect of ending FGM. And the judgment, it shifts me a lot. In fact, after the judgment, it has been difficult more than the beginning. Because in the beginning, I was stressed in the hospital. I have to flee from the hospital to Liberia. I spent a couple of days in the bush. I was beaten by rain, wild animals, and so forth. From Liberia, I have to go through Ghana, find myself in Kenya, and return back like
Hmm. Oh no, I lost Khadijatu again.
from the justice, a lot of threats. I have to be in hiding. And as I'm speaking to you, I'm in hiding. I have put myself
Oh,
at
Khadijatu,
risk, my family, and so forth. And we are not going to stop. We will not stop. If it takes what it takes to see that the justice is rightfully served, we are ready to move on. And the justice to me is like an umbrella when you see to take the cloth off the iron. But it doesn't mean that the umbrella will not work again. You need to bring the. So this is how the justice has been in my face for now. But I want others.
Oh no.
Since after the ruling, they are a society, and as we all are seeing, people that are supposed to support us, like the First Lady, she's quite in support of the SUI. And all of us are women and girls who are entitled and legitimate to the rights that exist in Sierra Leone and beyond the region. So the justice is not limited to few people, or the justice that serve in the ECOWAS court does not limited to Khadija. This ruling can be used in Gambia, can use in, how can I say, in Kenya, in Nairobi, in other schools. People can use the justice system, the ruling, to do research and make it clear to people to benefit out of it. So it's not just about the $30,000. I have not received the $30,000. In fact, the president is the sitting chairman of the ECOWAS
Yeah.
region, and he has not publicly acknowledged the
Yeah.
ruling. Because if he and he saw that asking him, Mr. President, we want it means the justice has not been served. If I need justice and my life is threatened, I don't have a proper medical attention, it means the justice has not been served. If I have justice and my family is in hiding, cannot have a full access to me, I don't have access to my son. Yeah, I think the justice is like fragile. But notwithstanding that, with all this collective work is what makes it beautiful, and we will set a precedent that we demand justice and the justice must be served.
Thank you, Khadija. And I'm so sorry we kept losing you, but I think we've captured an essence of what you were saying, because it's so important that your voice is heard globally. And I'm so sorry that you have to be in hiding. I know what that feels like. I remember being a survivor who had to be in hiding at one point. This is not an easy position to be in. And maybe a little quick, like a little bit, I spoke to you the day you got after this court hearing. I don't know if you remember, but we spoke on the phone for the first time. I'm really grateful that we were purposeful connected us, because they really wanted someone just to support you a little bit. And it's really good to see where you are, but I'm really sorry. To the audience, please send a lot of love to Khadija, because I think just having that message that you need to keep going, you need to keep hearing that. So thank you for really putting yourself in that position. Just one last question on this, maybe Fatou, I want to come back to you. So in the Gambia now, what we've seen, I think it's coming up to 2 years now, it's how legal protection can come under political and social pressure. So what does it take to defend a law that's already been passed? So what, like, if you maybe can speak to that a little bit.
You speaking to me or Fatou?
Fatou, yeah.
Okay.
Khadija, big hug to you. Thank you again for sharing. That was very touching. Yeah. So for us in the Gambia, I think one of the most important lessons we have learned is that passing a law is only one aspect, or the beginning, really. And we have come to realize that even when a law is passed, especially one that defends women's rights, as we are seeing globally, and this is not just isolated to the Gambia, we must continue to defend the law. We must also continue to put pressure that these laws are implemented, they are monitored, but most importantly, that they are supported by the communities. And we know that effective implementation requires political commitment, public awareness, as well as adequate resources. I think the Gambia and Sierra Leone has a lot in common when it comes to the issue of FGM, particularly around political will, and the fact that we must admit that FGM is often used as a political tool. We see over and over where politicians use FGM as a campaign tool. We saw that in the Gambia, and we are seeing presently what is happening in Sierra Leone. So we have a lot in common, and I believe Liberia is the same. So this is why this ECOWAS ruling is so important for the region, because for us it also builds confidence that these regional mechanisms actually do work, because they have been tested, they have worked. And for us, yes, Khadija, purposeful, you have set a precedent. As you know, we are still going through defending the law, and we have a precedent that has been set. And beyond our national laws, we must also hold those people at ECOWAS, the leadership at ECOWAS, accountable. If the court has made a decision, it is their responsibility to ensure that those decisions are upheld, that not just Khadija gets justice, but that justice is felt beyond the individual, but that communities also feel this. We've also seen in the Gambia where in 2025, I'm sure a lot of the people on here are aware, and Leila, you in your introduction spoke about the 1-month-old baby who died after the FGM procedure. Despite the outcry, not just nationally, internationally, 3 people, witnesses, people who participated, were acquitted. But for us also, yes, it's been heartbreaking, and But we have seen again the law, despite the hostile environment, the law has been tested. That it has actually, the government, as much as we talk about political will, we have seen that despite the pressure, especially for us in the Gambia, the pressure is coming from religious groups, and they are powerful. Religious groups are powerful in our community. You speak to women in our community, and they tell you, if I speak out now against the law or against FGM, I will be considered as speaking against my religion. And we have to accept that in some cases, extremist groups. And that has a lot of consequences for women who lack protection. So this is why, for us, it's such a complex issue. We must continue our advocacy efforts. We must use the ECOWAS ruling as a precedent as we go through the Supreme Court case. We can't speak a lot at the moment about the Supreme Court case. I'm sure Madam Thompson will know us better about the law and stuff. We are very restricted as to how much we can speak on the case. But survivors continue to fight. We continue to provide support to other survivors, but also to the court as we mobilize effort, but also reminding our state of the international obligations that they have and the regional and national obligations that they have to protect women and girls. Rights around culture and tradition stops when those rights violates the rights of other women and girls, when they harm other women and girls. And we continue to have confidence in our systems, in our law, but also that our government will do the right thing. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Fatu. I think this really leads us nicely to what survivor leadership and movement building actually looks like. So I want to come to Mariama. So Mariama, my first question to you is, as a young activist, and by the way, globally, we are seeing Gen Z movements everywhere. So I guess you kind of represent that space for us right now. So as a young activist, what does survivor leadership mean for young people organizing themselves today, right? So, and how can the youth movement hold space for survivors without exploiting them in this space? So maybe speak to that a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Leila. Before I speak towards the question that you asked, I just want to send hugs to Kadiato and a lot of love. And I want to also say, I think we need more cases of Kadiato. I'm not saying like we need more people to be forcefully initiated into FGM, but I think we need more people to rise up and speak about what they are really facing, and then giving girls the courage and the confidence that if they speak up, their voices can be heard, and there are people out there that can really support them to get the justice that they deserve. So coming back to your question, what does survival leadership looks like? So for me, I will say, if you are a survivor and you're speaking or organizing to like lead, it is not a mistake, and you are doing yourself well, and you are not doing it because of the data. So basically, I would just say survival leadership is not based on data, it's not based on what we see or what we heard. It's based on the experiences that we face, it's based on the pains that we feel. So when survivors speak, we shift power, we challenge power, we challenge change. Because most of the time, people come to speak for us, people come to do things for us, but they are not really coming to dialogue with us, asking us what we need, how they should go about it, including us in decision making. So when survivors organize and lead, you will really see the honesty and the reality in the work they do. Because our work is not based on it's not based on data, it's based on the experience, it's based on the scars that we carry and the ability to prevent other girls from going through what we went through. So it's actually nice to organize in your communities, because there are a lot of things women and girls are going through. And if you are a survivor and you just sit back and say, oh, this thing has happened to me, and I don't want to come out to speak about it because I will not have people that will listen to me. You see, when Kayatu came up and speak out, there were people who came together and say, this is what we need to do, without asking questions, without judging her, without shaming her for her story. So when you are a survivor in your community and you say, I want to organize and really hold space for girls, it will really push you, because this is coming from a place of reality. So this has brought me back to something that happened in my community. I think I shared that in a webinar we had last year. A policeman beat his girlfriend, and then we came to the police station to report the case and do follow up on the matter. So actually, when that happened, I was not around, and my colleagues were not around. I came to Freetown, and then they called me. This has happened, and I also saw Sylvia Blyden posted it on Facebook, and she tagged Karen District. This happened in Karen District. So when I went, in fact, I was in Freetown, and then I put a call through and say, this has happened. What have you done? Because we have a group where what we call COPE, Community of Best Practice, where in all organizations in Karen District are in that particular group. So I put a message through and asked question, what have you done? You that are in Carine, what is happening? What is going on? And like people we are biased, like they don't want to come out plain because, oh, this thing that happened was done by a policeman. I mean, these people are there to protect our lives and property. So why are you as a policeman will beat your girlfriend? So they don't want to respond to me. So I went to Carine. And I organized with my colleagues. We went to the police station, and then the LUC told us, I don't want you to come here and escalate the matter. Like people has come here and we have already ironed it out. I said, how did you iron it out? Have you brought to book the perpetrator? Have you tell him what he did was wrong? Because his responsibility is to protect our lives and not to beat us. Like, have you tell him what he did was wrong? Have you given justice to the young woman? That is what we are here for. We are here to seek justice. We are not here to escalate matter or whatnot. But if you give us the chance to escalate it, of course we can escalate it because that is what you want. And then he listened to us. He allowed us speak our mind, and then we told him what we need is justice. We want the policeman that failed to realize or recognize his responsibility to be brought to book and then locked up and given a fine, even though the number of years that he was locked up for was not enough, but at least we felt good because we knew we spoke up and our voices were heard and justice was served, and he was fined also. So that is what gives us joy when we organize in our community. We should not just sit back and watch things happening. So survivors justice, survivors organizing or survivors leadership is when we really come out to speak out about our experiences, what we feel, the pains that we carry, and supporting other women or young girls not to really undergo what we felt or really face or experience what we went through.
I think, Mariam, also I want to add, this is a youth-led movement because, maybe I can speak for some people in the group on this call, but we need young people to be leading this because some of us are really tired and exhausted. And it's so I think just hearing you speak the way you do, it really gives me so much. And also I want to send you so much love and kindness because you're also putting yourself at risk. But maybe I had a follow-up question. So maybe if you can speak to how young people in Sierra Leone have been leading this conversation and what challenges are you facing right now? Because it's different to the position maybe Eleanor's in, Fatu's in, myself is in, but maybe in this current climate, if you can speak to the youth-led approach.
Yes. So, well, when Eleanor was presenting, he talked about an issue right now that's going on when a young woman has to come up and say, I was forcefully initiated into FGM. So this is really what we face sometimes as young leaders when we lead. Most of the times, the people that we think they can protect us are those that really, really do some things that are not necessary in the movement. Because, okay, let's look at the first lady. So most of us young girls, they are looking at this woman as somebody who we can look up to, as somebody who we can mentor. But if you coming out there and say, if you really know that what happens to you really happened, you have to come on video and say what happens to you. Like, have you thought about the protection of the individual? Have you thought about the safety? So most of the time we took risk to really get what we want. We took risk to really be where we want to be. So it's really challenging. Most of the time we don't get air. People do not listen to us. People get to judge us for things that we take up. So at one time, we go to a community to talk about FGM. So it is really important also to name the language, the kind of languages that we use when we talk about FGM. So when we go to the community, we organize and then bring all survivors, chiefs, the Soways, the Mami Queens, and all of them in a room. So my colleague, he started talking about FGM. He is a male, but he is not, he's fearless. I can say that he's fearless. But when talking about FGM, he was really mindful of the kind of languages that he was using. So after his presentation, everybody was quiet in the room. Nobody wanted to talk to us. Nobody wanted to like listen to what we have to say, because to them, FGM is sacred. You cannot talk about it. So I came and then tell them my experience, what I experienced after FGM. Like I'm not biased when talking about FGM. I really told them that I am not biased when talking about FGM, because we really have to name what happened to us because of FGM. So I explained to them, I tell them my experience. This is what I had to go through because I undergone FGM. And then the Sowe, after my presentation, the Sowe has to say to me, it's not like we want to do it. Like the Sowe that was really not ready to listen to us again after my colleague presented, it's not like we want to do it, but we do not have where we can get money to maybe feed our families and all of that. That is why we are doing it. So this really happens to you. So it's also important to sometimes share your experience about something and then allow people to learn and actually bring out conversations. So we face a lot of challenges, like we are judged. People get to tell us that it is because you find yourself in spaces, that is why you are doing this work. It is because you get money from this work, that is why you are doing this work. Sometimes we will not get people to attend our events because they know we are coming to talk about FGM. When you invite a Sowe to an event that has to do with FGM, they will not come because they know you are coming to talk about FGM. But just like Kadatu, we are not stopping because we want to be somewhere. We want to liberate girls. We want girls to really see that this thing that they are doing to them is not good, and we want girls to say no to FGM. So we are not going to stop, whether or not we face challenges or there are risks that we know about. And that is why when we go to the communities or wherever we go to talk about issues that has to do with FGM, we make sure our safety comes first. We prioritize our safety and also prioritize the safety of the girls we are working with, because we know if they are safe, the work can go on. If we are not safe, the work stop there. So we are not going to stop. Whether or not the girls or not the judge us, we still come out and say, before us in FGM, we come out and say FGM is not good. We still come out to say FGM has health complications. So we are not going to stop there.
Thank you so much, Mariama, for really reminding everybody the importance. And I think I want to come back to Eleanor quickly. I think Mariama at the beginning said, in order for us to see change, we need more survivors really coming forward. So maybe Eleanor, you can maybe respond to, from a legal and advocacy perspective, how do survivor testimonies influence political will, public understanding, and legal accountability? Because, these women, these young girls are putting their lives at risk, but what impact is that having when that happens?
Indeed. And again, all of the survivors, not just who are courageous, like Khadija, like yourself, Leila, and others, to speak out and who we look at as experts, but also those who can't speak out, but who in many other ways behind the scenes support the movement or are part of the movement. Without your courage, none of this you wouldn't be able to take a case to the ECOWAS court. You wouldn't have the legal victory. You wouldn't have the change is that you're seeing legally, socially, etc. So again, really want to just commend and acknowledge all of you. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, harm, especially in the human rights context. I'm a human rights lawyer, but sometimes the language can just be seen very abstract. And also sometimes it's very deliberately tagged as being, Western. And we always have to bring it back to the basis for all of these and center the survivors, and that's done in a court case, for instance, through their testimony. We were very deliberate. I mean, the case name is called the Forum Against Harmful Practices and Others versus Sierra Leone. We did that in this case because of for Khadijatu's protection, but it was still important for her to be a named applicant in the case. It was still important for, I mean, if one reads through the decision, you'll see that most of the facts are the facts of her case, right? It is centered around the harm that was caused to her, and it's her telling her story for the most part. And we also tell the broader story of FGM in Sierra Leone. But that is central to taking this from an abstract to to something that's very real. And also why survivor testimony is important, not just in the courtroom or in the litigation or legal advocacy, but also advocacy with policymakers, decision makers, is because of something that Mariama mentioned, and also that Fatou mentioned. Fatou mentioned it that in the Gambia, I mean, it's conflated, or FGM is conflated with religion, and in Sierra Leone, it's conflated with culture, and in many ways, that depersonalizes the harm and the experience of the harm, which is why survivors telling their stories and also leading and being very open and clear about what they have experienced, the harm that they have suffered, and sometimes very explicitly, is important to, again, take it out of that abstract or a deflective mode, to the harm, bring it back to the harm, and that this cannot continue, but also that it needs to be redressed. And I think one of the things that we have to do as a society is determine, what that harm is harm, and whether it's done in the name of religion, culture, etc. At the end of the day, it's still harmful, and that's what we want to address.
Thank you so much, Eleanor. And please, the audience, I see all your chats in the chat box. I mean, I think I'm gonna, with the panelists, if it's okay, I'm gonna stop here because I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions. I will invite my colleague Jacob. But I think it's one thing I really want to speak to. Even the way this webinar came together really just shows the importance of collectively coming together. So we are purposeful, and the girl generation really took a stance in really saying, this is about protecting children, this is about protecting women and girls, but most importantly, it's justice has to be served, but justice and healing comes together. So I really would like to acknowledge what real allyship, what partnership really looks like when we're coming together. So I really want to commend We Are Purposeful for really leading this work in Sierra Leone and being brave enough, because I think and again, I know even with the girl generation, when we took a stance that we are a girl-centered programming, it comes with serious backlash. And we can talk, maybe we need to have another whole webinar on backlash, but really wanted to make that very clear to the audience. It's really important when two programs, two organizations come together like this, because we're speaking to the same thing. We're sharing this value in ensuring that survivor-led work is extremely important. Justice must be served, and their well-being is absolutely primary to this work. So I really just wanted to kind of conclude what we were saying, because we can't have one without the other. Fatu made it super clear. We can't have justice without having the healing, and the healing means what does that family or the girl's education look like? What does the health system look like? So all of this. So I'm really happy that we can create this space together. So I want to pass over to my colleague Jacob to maybe pick some of the questions that was from the audience, and I'll ask the panelists maybe to respond to some of those. Jacob, over to you. Anne, is Jacob there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead, Jacob.
So there's no question on the Q&A section.
So maybe read some
I
comments in the audience.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so there are some comments, like one, the First Lady of Sierra Leone openly gave her support to the FGM cutters called Sowi during the big gathering in Sierra Leone. What a shame. Also said in BBC interview that her two girls cannot endure the pain of the FGM. I think that's a hit gain there that you can speak to, Leila. In
Jacob,
Sierra
I can't
Leone,
hear
still
you properly. Jacob, you're not clear. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm not hearing Jacob properly. It's not very clear when you're speaking.
Can you hear me now?
That's much better. Please go ahead.
Okay. Great. So I'm just reading the second one here that is saying that FGM is more political than culture. FGM cutters of crimes claim that it's their income and getting financial help from politicians is their key to anchor to this harmful practice. Politicians are the one building structure all over Sierra Leone for their practices and matching with them in their power over vulnerable. I think that's a very, very strong point from Khadija there. So let me see if I can get another one. Okay, so I don't seem to see more comments. And can you see?
No problem.
More comments from your end. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jacob. So what I want to end our webinar with, I'll go to each speaker. What would be great if each speaker can just give me one sentence. What is the one thing the movement must do differently if we are really serious about survivor justice? Maybe Khadijatu, I'll start with you. Just one sentence. What the movement can be doing differently to ensure we take survivor justice seriously. Khadijatu, are you there? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect.
Okay. For me, if the president of Sierra Leone promised us during his campaign that he is going to protect the women and girls, it shouldn't just be a written word. And now I understand that he's in McKinney in the town hall to address the people of McKinney. And in that room, there will be women and there will be future decision makers. So we need that promise to be visible. And I want activists, survivors, lawmakers, policymakers to come together and support in every little way to see that we end the practice. And again, I'm sorry to the audience because I'm in hiding. I have difficulties in terms of internet connection. And please, we shouldn't just stop at the webinar, like conversation. After that, we find our ways. Let's add our voices in everywhere we find ourselves, that FGM is a harm and it should be stopped now.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow, but today. So your voice, my voice, and every other people's voices matter and it should be heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Khadijatu. Mariama, in one sentence, thank you.
Yes, so I think we need to work together across countries, and most of all, funders and partners need to put survivors in charge because we know the pain and we also know the solutions. So they should support us and not talk for us.
Thank you so much. Eleanor.
Movements should use all the tools at their disposal, and when strategic litigation is only one of those tools. But even in the context of strategic litigation, it must not just be about the court case, but also resources need to be put in place to support the legal action part, but also survivor safety and well-being.
Thank you, Elena. Finally, Fatu.
Thank you, ladies. Those were all very powerful. For me, survivor leadership means survivors are present wherever decisions are being made, that we are not just symbols or tokens, but as equal partners. It also means that survivors should help in designing policies, shaping programs, also conducting research using our lived experiences, and as well as managing resources and influencing advocacy strategies. As I said earlier, we are from these communities. We understand what works for us. We understand how our communities can listen to us. So we should leverage that. And everybody who works in the space should also recognize the strength that we bring on the table.
Thank you so much, Fatu. Before I would like to invite quickly that, but I didn't even notice, but this is something I'm just doing now. So I would like to ask maybe Josephine and Anne to come in just for a few minutes, just to share some of the resources that people should go and check out. So maybe Josephine, can you maybe unmute yourself, and you can maybe lead the We Are Purposeful resources that people should be looking into. Thank you. Can we unmute Josephine if possible? Maybe if Josephine can I ask Famia if we can do that, maybe for the audience? TJLM host, you're speaking, but you're muted. I don't know why. You're muted. So whatever you're saying, I cannot hear it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, Famia. Thank you.
Hi, Leila. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is such an important discussion, such an important topic, and we are so grateful for the panelist and for this brilliant moderator. We have an upcoming publication, Advancing Justice Across the Region, the Transnational Movement to End FGM. It's coming out at the end of the month on July 23rd. So please look at our social media pages and also our website at We Are Purposeful, where that publication will be. We also have the ECOWAS anniversary of Khadijatu's ruling is next week, Wednesday, on July 8th. And we will have a film screening in Sierra Leone about survivor justice. So anybody in Sierra Leone, please leave us a little link in the chat and we'll let you know where it will be. But please, let's continue the conversation and let's keep things going. I know the Girl Generation Africa-led movement has a lot of resources that they can offer. And I would please beseech everyone to check them out. I think we need to shift this conversation and name it for what it is: child sexual abuse, gender-based violence, and something that can't hide under the cover of culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Famia. So Anne, over to you. Maybe if you can just point out to where people need to be going to look for our resources.
Thank you, Leila. I hope you can hear me and sit somewhere that has a little background noise.
The sound is not good. The sound feels very like you're distant.
Yes. And now, how is it now?
A little bit better. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So for the girl generation, we've already shared some resources on the power of language in English, Amharic, and French. So you can look out for that in the chat box. But I've also shared a link where you can find more resources. And we also have endline evaluations that we are doing currently. So you can also look out for what we are learning as a program, what evidence are we coming up with, because as a program, we were set up to find out what works and what doesn't work to end FGM. So you can look out for these resources in our website. Thank you, Leila.
Thank you so much. I think today, to summarizing what we've heard, political will is absolutely important. Cross-border work is really important. Better legal framework, language, survivor at the center of all this. I think it's really what we kind of captured. I mean, I want us to really think about this as a beginning of a conversation. I hope we can come together again to continue hosting such conversations, because sometimes we just need to create a space to keep unpacking this conversation, because I think having silos, doing this work silos, it doesn't work. And it's really important that we do come together and to ensure that we are constantly speaking to the justice and the healing of survivors. I think that's really critical. And I'm saying this as a survivor myself. I was subjected to FGM at the age of 7, and I've been involved for this work for more than 2 decades. I think such conversation really, really gives me hope, not just an advocate in this space, but also as a survivor in this space, to actually be, to hear this language does a lot for my own personal healing, because for many years I was subjected to, and I sat through conversations where my experience and our experience has been minimized to a cultural practice. For me, culture, it's our language, it's our food, it's how we do our hair, the clothes we wear, the sense. That's where culture needs to stop. Violating children, it's not my culture as an African person. I would never claim it as my culture. So I would like to invite you all. None of us should ever claim violence as a form of our culture. So that, and I'm glad we created this safe space. So thank you so much to We Are Purposeful for partnering with us and being really brave in doing this work, with us at the Girl Generation. And a massive thank you to the Girl Generation for stepping up and really being part of this conversation. I think it's really important that we do come together in these really critical moments, because harming a child, it's a basic value we should all be sharing. So I want to close out with a bit of note of care. This is the psychotherapist in me. So before we close, I just want us to think about how we take care of ourselves. Today's conversation has touched on experience around violence, justice, resilience, and the realities many survivors face. These discussions can bring up different emotions, whether you are a survivor, an activist, a practitioner, a colleague who works in the space, or an ally, someone who just really cares about this issue. As we leave this space, I want to encourage all of us to be really gentle with ourselves today and next few days, because this work is very triggering. If you need to pause, please just pause after this conversation. Maybe go and take a walk. Maybe speak to someone you care about, to someone you trust. I encourage you to journal if you need to. If you need to pray, if you need to rest, it's okay to pause. This is for everybody, including the staff, everybody who's helped organize this and those who joined us. So taking care of ourselves, it's not separate from this work. It's actually critical to this work. It's what allows us to continue showing up for ourselves, for one another, and for this movement. Because if our glass is empty, we can't show up. We can't keep giving from an empty glass. So we have to always think in that context. How do I take care of myself in order to show up for this movement is very critical. So again, a massive thank you, and sending massive love and support to all the speakers for your honesty, for your courage, your leadership. Thank you everyone who joined us today and for being part of this very important conversation. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. So massive hugs, and really a massive thank you for showing up today. Really, really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you, Leila. Thank you for your leadership, and for always bringing people together, and for us having these conversations, because I think we all know that what is happening, it's not an isolated issue. We are all facing these challenges. So this is not just a webinar, it's also a safe space for all of us to reflect and even to just pour out what's in our hearts. So thank you for making this possible, purposeful, and the Girl Generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will ask the team who organized maybe to stay behind. Eleanor, I think you wanted to say something.
I was just seconding Fatu. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for joining. Hopefully we'll come together again very soon. Thank you.